against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut in your criticism of those teams.
Whew, yikes. All right, so that was just 9 months ago after the Heat had been eliminated by the Celtics, and Jimmy Butler, of course, missed the series with a sprained right MCL. And then fast forward to July, that's when Butler became extension eligible, but it was the Heat that kept their checkbook shut. Did you see how high my voice went there? Not even making an offer. And then Jimmy was late to media day, and the grumbling of wanting a trade began, culminating in our Sham Charania reporting Jimmy's wish list, which prompted this response from Riley, saying that all the speculation has become a distraction to the team and it's not fair to the players and the coaches. Therefore, we will make it clear we are not trading Jimmy Butler. But wait, there's more. Then Jimmy publicly explained that he's lost his love for basketball and said that he doesn't think that he can find it in Miami, which sounds a lot like a trade request for me, but no one's calling it that yet. So then, one day later, Miami suspends Jimmy for conduct detrimental to the team. You got that? That's the game. Let's focus here on the locker room. Becky, you were in San Antonio when Kawhi Leonard made it very clear, even though it was a very different situation, that he did not want to be with the franchise anymore. What impact does this have on a locker room? Jimmy Butler, the Miami Heat.
I'll say this. Well, what's funny is we got DeMar, right?
Yeah. So watching him take over.
We ended up getting DeMar in that trade. But when a player wants out and a player is giving you a list of teams, it's just time to say goodbye. And I think with Kawhi, I wish Jimmy would just say, hey, I want out. That's okay. Thank you. Kawhi, I want out. Thank you. And as things get drug out, it tends to get a little bit ugly. And there was a point where I was discussing with some other coaches, that I didn't think Kawhi wanted to be in San Antonio anymore. And I just said, he's the girl in the car right now that is just playing nice until she can get out of that car.
She's done with the date.
She's done with the date.
Yep.
She's just playing nice until now. Jimmy and Kawhi are very different personalities.
Yeah.
Right? Both tremendous players. But it doesn't have to be ugly. I just think own your feelings. You want out, it's perfectly okay. And then both teams got to move on. Both sides got to move on. And it doesn't have to be ugly. And right now it's starting to get ugly.
Yeah. And what you just described when it comes to the Miami Heat, it feels like it's a Cold War, right? It's a conundrum because that is so antithetical to what we know the Miami Heat to be. A team, an organization where the players, the coach, everyone, leadership, management are on the same page, which means the only way they can get through this is having a come to Jesus meeting, like that type of situation. But it seems like that is far removed based off of everything that has transpired. The reason why I say this is a conundrum is because he returns, he plays, he already made his intentions. He said it's not just, you said a list of, teams. He said any team but this team, get me away from here, right? Like 29 teams he would go to. That's tough to walk back. And also, if you have a player that sort of has that mindset, it'll only take a come to Jesus for you to get back on the same page to try to make something of it. But that's not, I don't think in this situation it's possible.
No, I mean, it's done. It's done. Let's just both move on. The Miami Heat are going to do what's best for the Miami Heat, and Jimmy hopefully gets in a situation. But trades are not so easy. I mean, the money's got to work. There's a lot of moving parts. So hopefully both teams get some value there.
Whenever the equations get difficult, that's when we call on our money moves, Bobby Marks. So it's a good thing that he is here, because if Jimmy is moved, we know the teams he would prefer to go to, Bobby: the Suns, the Warriors, the Mavs, the Rockets. But what other teams do you think could be in the running here?
I would keep an eye on Milwaukee here. I mean, when you know John Horst, their GM, 28 trades they've made since he was hired. Certainly the Damian Lillard trade last year. Now, it's complicated here, Malika, because of a couple of things. We've talked about the second apron, their second apron team. So we're going to talk about Miami, Milwaukee, and then we're going to rope in a third team like Detroit. So we're going to send Jimmy Butler to Milwaukee, and then we're going to send Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton to the Miami Heat. And then we're going to rope in the third team like the Detroit Pistons, because we have to send the contract of Pat Connaughton out to a third team going to the Detroit Pistons. And a player like Bobby Clinton would also be going to Miami. Remember, Milwaukee is $6.5 million over the second apron. They're not allowed to combine contracts. However, in this type trade, that allows them to aggregate, because they would now be going under that second apron threshold. And that deal works, as you guys can see there. Now, the problem is, there's the but. Milwaukee only has a 2031 first and a 2031 second to send out in a deal. So what's the incentive from Miami? What's the incentive from Detroit? A team that could be a buyer when we get closer to this trade deadline.
So out goes Middleton, out goes Pat Connaughton, out goes Bobby Portis, in comes Jimmy Butler. You're the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. Do you like this, Becky?
Ooh, it's a lot.
Okay.
It's a lot. It's a lot of disruption.
Yeah.
I do like the defensive aspect that Jimmy would bring, but Bobby Portis is huge for them.
Yeah.
And when you talk about Pat Connaughton, he's like a culture guy. Like, they love him there. So this is a really tough trigger if I'm John Horst.
Look, we love our Bobbies here on the show, okay?
Yes, we do.
Bobby Marks and Bobby Portis. And to me, once I hear he's involved, it's difficult. He has been a tremendous bright spot, an energy boost, leading scorer off the bench, steps into any situation. To me, it's hard to sort of see Jimmy come in, and then what does that do for the starting five?
Neither here nor there, but when I did the trophy ceremony for the Milwaukee Bucks, we had it scripted. Giannis, okay, we know we're going to interview him. Chris Middleton, all right, we know we're going to interview him. Drew Holiday, we know we're going to interview him. The crowd was so fervent about Bobby, that spur of the moment. Tim Corrigan, our producer, got in my ear and said, we need to talk to Bobby. Like, that's how much he means to the city of Milwaukee, just in that moment. So that would be a tough pill to swallow. Another destination, though, Bobby, that Shams reported is that maybe Jimmy is interested in the Suns. And then, of course, last night we see Bradley Beal. He was asked about the possibility of being part of a trade, and he said he holds the cards. Just how complicated would it be for the Suns to acquire Butler?
It's extremely complicated because there's not going to be a Phoenix, Miami, Bradley Beal in a Heat uniform, Jimmy Butler to the Suns deal. I've vetted it out multiple times. Certainly Shams has talked about it. Miami doesn't have interest in taking back the $110 million of Bradley Beal. Now, here's where Phoenix is going to have to get creative. You're going to have to find a third or fourth team to get Bradley Beal to, and also waive that no trade clause. Remember, he still has that no trade clause. So he has, as he said, he controls the card. But here's one thing. I hired Matt Tellem in Brooklyn. He is their assistant GM in Phoenix. He is one of the most creative assistant GM salary cap guys out there. If there's somebody that can figure it out, he can figure it out. So we can certainly keep an eye on Phoenix, but not directly with Miami as far as getting Beal into a Heat uniform. Right,
because Miami does not necessarily want to take on that contract, nor do they want to take on the no trade clause. Bobby Marks, as Chene said it best, we love our Bobbies here on this show. Thank you so much for stopping by. And
this is about money. There's side issues, there's certain things about the system and you know, feelings and everything that are involved. This is about money. Last spring, at the end of the Heat season, Pat Riley sat down in front of the cameras and said, we're not extending Jimmy Butler's contract. He has one guaranteed year left, 1 year on an option. Jimmy Butler wanted his contract extended. Bottom line, now he's 35 years old. You can debate about whether or not the Heat should have extended his contract after he had a year last year where he missed a lot of games, including their playoff series, but he wanted it done. And once the Heat made that decision, we were, in one way or another, probably on to this path. And maybe this regular season could have gone differently, but that's what this is about. This is about his next contract getting paid. And, you know, you could argue, and the Heat actually are, that if you're being paid $50 million this year, that you should focus on this year. And that's a reasonable position. And certainly if I was advising Jimmy, I would have advised him to try to have an incredible year. But that's not how Jimmy has decided to go. He doesn't feel in the way that the Heat are playing this year, he can have a great season. And so here we are. Now, we have a big problem here because Jimmy Butler isn't going to extend with any team. And so because teams know that, they're offering the Heat right now the poo-poo platter. There is only one team that is ready to pay Jimmy Butler exactly what he wants, and that is the Phoenix Suns. And you know why that's fascinating, Molly? Because of the 29 other teams that are out there that could trade for Jimmy Butler, the team that he wants to go to, which is Phoenix, is the team that has the hardest time trading for him. Ain't just that the way that it goes in life. And so that's where we're at. We're at a genuine stalemate.
Hey, what's up, guys? Jag from Jaggy Sports here. Let's talk about Jimmy Butler again. Update on this one. He is telling teams that he will not sign an extension with them pretty much unless you are the Phoenix Suns. So he's telling teams that he will not go. He's telling people that he does not want to go to Phoenix or Milwaukee, Memphis, Golden State, Houston, Dallas, but he does want to go to Phoenix. Why is that? The reason is because he wants that full extension, 2-year, full max, 55 per. So meaning that he's going to get a $110 million extension, and then he will sign that, and then most likely he will retire. That is his angle now. Now that we know that, and now that all the teams know that, they're lowballing offers to the Miami Heat. They're lowballing offers to the Miami Heat. So the Miami Heat is like, what the hell? Why would I send out Jimmy Butler for nothing? Right? And Miami Heat are full in control. They hold all the cards, just like Bradley Beal said last night. They hold all the cards, and they're in the driver's seat. There's nothing you can do. So they are willing to hang on to Jimmy Butler after his suspension until they can find a deal. If they find a deal, right? They're getting lowball offers, and the only team that is willing to give him an extension, and he's willing to take it, is the Phoenix Suns. However, they have a no trade clause in Bradley Beal's contract. So, and they're second apron team. So to get that off their books, they need to A, convince Bradley Beal to waive his no trade clause, and the price to pay for some team out there to absorb Bradley Beal's contract is 2 first rounders. So the Phoenix Suns would send out that contract and 2 first rounders just to get rid of Bradley Beal. I don't know why you would, because last night on the bench he did fairly well, right? So, you know, I get the contract is incredibly massive, but bottom line is you're getting Jimmy Butler, possibly, but that is where we stand right now. Then Bobby Mark said if a trade were to go down, the best trade scenario would be the Milwaukee Bucks and the Detroit Pistons. So the Milwaukee Bucks would send out Chris Middleton and his contract, and then the Miami Heat would send out Jimmy Butler. Not the greatest trade package that the Miami Heat would get in return, because you're getting Bobby Portis back too. I get it. Bobby Portis is awesome. But I personally thought the trade package that Memphis was originally sending out was awesome. But it is known that Jimmy Butler has stated that he does not want to go to Memphis. So he doesn't want to go to Memphis. He doesn't want to go to any other team. But the team that has the most guts to pull this off is John Horst and the Milwaukee Bucks. Will they actually do it for a 4-month rental to get Jimmy Butler, win the title? Possibly. We don't know. I'm just saying, right? Possibly. And then Jimmy walks. You lost Pat Connaughton, Chris Middleton, well, he's coming off the books anyway, and you lost Bobby Portis. I don't know, and the only picks that they have are 2031 and 2032, 2031 and 2031 first and second round picks. So essentially you'd be losing those too. That's a lot to gamble, but let's not forget one thing. They got Jay Crowder for 4 second-round picks. Jay Crowder. So they are willing, I'm thinking, to trade for Jimmy Butler, even though Jimmy Butler says that he only wants to go to Phoenix. So the next 4 weeks are going to be insane. The saga continues. Leave a comment in the comment section. Tell me where you think that Jimmy Butler is going to go. What do you think of the Milwaukee trade package? Will he go to Milwaukee? Will you see him in Memphis Grizzlies uniform? Or will Phoenix Suns finally pull off the miracle of getting rid of Bradley Beal's contract and getting Jimmy Butler in return? Or is it quite possible that we see Jimmy Butler still in a Miami Heat uniform after the trade deadline? Leave a comment in the comment section. As always, Jag from Jaggy Sports.